Her faithful servant, Andahai, tries to protect her as much as he can. Behind its facade of harmony, the Forbidden City is riddled with envy, factions, and politics. Yehanara learns her lesson well, quickly mastering the art of palace intrigue. On the 27th of April, 1856, Yehanara bears a son. As mother of the heir to the throne, she is, after the Empress, the empire's highest-ranking woman. But Yehanara's meteoric rise carries a price. Her son, Shai Sui, will all but be a stranger to her. Tradition assigns his upbringing to the Empress and the eunuchs. The Empress and heir receive their due. Even an infant crown prince has godlike status because he ensures the dynasty's continuity. Now Yehanara must come to terms with her own role. Just when the court inside the Forbidden City believes heaven has smiled on it, the world outside threatens to dissolve into chaos. China has always cut itself off from the influence of the foreign barbarians. But in 1840, after the First Opium War, Britain forced Chinese ports to open. Now other European powers are demanding their share, insisting on trading with the Chinese as equals. The emperor, now sick and weary of his ritual existence, is incapable of dealing with the situation. Legend maintains that he begins to rely more and more on Yehanara, even consulting her on government matters. It is Yehanara who studies the official proposals and guides the emperor's decisions. This is sacrilege, an unthinkable break with traditional roles. When the emperor receives visitors, even the most important figures, it is rumored that Yehanara stays at his side. The emperor's brother, Prince Gung, arrives with bad news. The British and French again insist on building embassies in China. The emperor sees this as barbarian insolence. He will never allow the barbarians to reach Beijing. But Prince Gung worries. The foreigners have troops. Some at court want the barbarians slain, or better, their ambassadors held hostage until the foreign soldiers leave. According to legend, it is Yehanara who breaks the deadlock. She sides with conservatives who say barbarians have humiliated China long enough. No more appeasement. They want to use force to maintain the empire's freedom and honor. The emperor agrees. And his subjects obey. officials arrest the Anglo-French delegation's 20 members, parading them through Beijing, past angry crowds. The White Devils only narrowly escape lynching. Armed with modern weapons, the Europeans shoot their way into the capital. For the first time ever, the court flees the Forbidden City. The official explanation is that the emperor has departed to join the traditional hunt at his summer residence. Yehanara opposes the decision to flee and later writes that it was the most humiliating moment of my life. But she does flee, though not without her son. This is more than a mother's love. If Yehanara stays in Beijing, she loses the only card that guarantees her position in court. She needs to get out quickly. The Europeans savage the summer palace, where their diplomats are being held. They destroy irreplaceable artwork. Centuries-old gardens reserved for the select few become rubble and ashes. On hearing the news, the emperor loses his will to live. Now the Son of Heaven lies on his deathbed, far from Beijing. He has not decided on his successor. Tradition holds that he must choose and then name his son as his heir, expressing his divine will in his own words. Yehanara's enemies at court want to prevent that. Yehanara's attempts to reach the emperor are denied, as she is barred at the door. Tradition dictates, as a mere concubine, she has no rights. She's even prevented from taking her son to his dying father. The chief eunuch threatens to arrest her. Finally, the emperor himself calls for his child. Shen Feng names the boy his successor, urging him to lead China to new greatness. But the emperor must still choose a name for his son's reign. With his last breath, the emperor fulfills his ritual duty. The model for the new emperor will be Tongzi ruling together. In 1861, Tongzi ascends the dragon throne, a 6-year-old commanding an empire. His mother holds all the power. At her son's ascendancy, Yehanara becomes the regent ruler. She will go down in history as Soshi, the Empress Dowager. Her determination has saved the dynasty, otherwise doomed to power struggles without a legitimate successor. Yehanara joins Prince Gung, the late emperor's brother, in opposing the court officials. For them, the presence of a woman at the head of the empire disturbs the harmony of the traditional order. Prince Gung is among the few who realize that the old order is lost forever. After the Summer Palace is destroyed, he agrees to European demands for embassies in Beijing. It's a revolutionary step. Historically, the Chinese regard ambassadors from other lands as mere messengers bringing tributes. The one thing the two cultures share is a conviction that the other is barbaric. On one side, the Europeans, rapidly developing. On the other, the Chinese, convinced of their cultural superiority. While the Chinese have little use for Western-style diplomacy, their traditional ways prove useless in the changing world outside the palace walls. When Tongzhi reaches adulthood and formally takes over power, his mother, Cixi, is the guarantee that the traditional political system will be maintained. The emperor issues proclamations, but the actual decisions fall to the all-powerful Empress Dowager, who listens to the audiences from behind a screen. Contemporaries actually call her the ruler behind the curtain. Cixi refuses to give up her power and privileges, unprecedented for a woman in Chinese history. By doing so, she will be overstepping the boundaries of imperial tradition, the very tradition that she is striving to maintain. On the imperial stage, the Son of Heaven is only a minor player. Having spent his entire life within the walls of the Forbidden City, surrounded by eunuchs, Tongzhi seeks refuge in worldly pleasures. At night, he slips out incognito to explore Beijing. Faced with a pointless existence, he takes refuge in a world of appearances. He smokes opium, introduced by the British, even though he himself had made opium smoking punishable by death. His health cannot withstand this lifestyle. In 1874, Tongzhi, the boy emperor, not yet 20 years old, dies. Court records describe Cixi as inconsolable. Grief-stricken, she cries out, "I thought I could be happy with my son as emperor. When he died, I became a different woman. All my happiness is gone." And yet, there's no time to mourn. Her son's widow, the Empress Aluta, is pregnant. The unborn child threatens Cixi's role in the Forbidden City. If Aluta bears a son, he will be crown prince, and Aluta will replace Cixi at court. But Cixi never relents. The night her son dies, she summons the highest council of state. Cixi stages a coup d'etat. She has convened the Council of State to choose a successor to the emperor. At first, they advise waiting for the empress to give birth. If a looter's child is a boy, he will be the emperor. But Su Shi insists that in this crisis, the throne should not stand vacant a single day. She proposes that her sister's son inherit the throne. Before opposition can build, Su Shi acts. Deep in the night, she has her 3-year-old nephew brought from his Beijing home to the Forbidden City. Guangzhou, the new infant emperor, will share his predecessor's fate. Su Shi again becomes co-regent, indirectly in control of the empire. Time stands still in the Middle Kingdom. Su Shi dominates the Forbidden City's court. She believes herself chosen to protect the traditions of Imperial China. Trapped in a world she invented, she's oblivious to the signs of disaster, one that won't stop at the Forbidden City's walls. As the 20th century looms, Chinese society is still locked in the past. Living and working conditions are appalling. The legal system is barbaric. Foreigners have brought railways, but this steel dragon is seen as devilish. Its efficiency threatens the livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of people carriers and coolies. Despite Su Shi's political savvy, she may not be able to save the Qing dynasty. In the year 1900, the people's pent-up fury explodes, not against Su Shi and the ruling Qing, but against Western devils, the foreigners. A sect calling itself the Fists of Heaven blames foreigners for China's decline. Officials of the Forbidden City have no idea how to react to this popular movement. If they let the so-called boxers run wild, the bureaucrats may not be able to control them. The usual practice is to crush such a rebellion. Guangzhou, Su Shi's puppet emperor, fears the foreign response to an attack. But some factions of the court disagree. They believe that China is weak. Without supernatural help, the only force they can rely on is the heart and soul of the Chinese people. Su Shi is swayed by the conservatives. An imperial edict drafts the desirable elements of the rebellious boxers into China's army. The undesirable elements are to be pacified, whatever that means. The boxers read this as carte blanche to start a full-scale rebellion. The legation quarter is near the Forbidden City. 3,000 diplomats and their families live here with a garrison of a few dozen soldiers. For 60 days, the boxers besiege the legation quarter. a well-armed international force comes to the rescue. The peasant mob is no match for the foreign forces and their modern weapons. Isolated in the palace, Su Shi and the Qing court seem out of touch with reality. So, it has come to this, Su Shi is believed to have said, as Western troops camped at Beijing's gates. After wielding power for half a century, she couldn't save the Qing dynasty. In humiliation, she is forced to flee, dressed as a peasant. In the autumn of 1900, Su Shi and Emperor Guangzhou flee the Forbidden City. It is almost 50 years since Su Shi first entered this sacred place, where every action was intended to preserve the harmony of the cosmos. Her rule delayed, but could not prevent the old order's downfall. After she fled, the Forbidden City's aura was destroyed forever. When the Europeans took Beijing, they behaved like the barbarians the Chinese imagined them to be, plundering whole sections of the Forbidden City. For 500 years, the Chinese regarded this as the center of the universe. The conquerors made it a common barracks for their soldiers. Yet a French diplomat could write respectfully of the throne room. These things have an indescribable air of age and mystery. This is a single, grandiose, gloomy hall, all covered in faded gold.